1 year later, the galaxy was a different place. Director Ben Clark stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new headquarters of the Galactic Federation. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from hundreds of worlds coming and going in peace. That the old Galactic Council had been dissolved after the truth about humanity's exile came to light. In its place stood a new government based on fairness and justice for all species. Every world had an equal voice, and corruption was no longer tolerated. The Morning Reports Director, said Ambassador Carol Young as she joined him at the window. She carried a datapad filled with updates from across the galaxy. Good news, I hope? Ben asked with a smile. The best kind. The slave markets on Rigel 7 have been permanently shut down. The last of the political prisoners on Centauri Prime have been freed. And the new schools on former slave worlds are reporting excellent progress. Ben nodded with satisfaction. The work was far from over, but every day brought new signs of hope. The galaxy was healing from centuries of corruption and abuse. Ambassador Young continued reading from her reports. Professor Tim Anderson says the cultural exchange programs are working better than expected. Former enemy species are learning to work together. Some are even becoming friends. Tim Anderson had been one of the first humans to volunteer for the reconstruction effort. His job was to help different species understand each other better. It was slow work, but important. Many of the galaxy's problems had started with fear and misunderstanding between different peoples. What about the justice system? Ben asked. Captain Lavra Kim reports that the new peacekeeping force is ready for deployment. We now have ships staffed by volunteers from every major species. They have all been trained in the new non-violent methods of law enforcement. The new peacekeeping force was something the galaxy had never seen before. Instead of using weapons and violence, they used the same techniques the humans had developed. They could disable criminal ships without destroying them, and put dangerous people to sleep without harming them. More importantly, the peacekeepers came from the very worlds they protected. A former slave might serve alongside someone from the species that had once enslaved his people. They learned to see each other as individuals rather than enemies. Ben walked over to his desk and activated the communication system. Get me a connection to the D. The massive dome of the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their floating seats, all talking at once. The emergency session had been called only 6 hours after Captain Zeth Kara. Report reached Council headquarters. Chancellor Vexstar, a tall being with 4 arms and silver skin, called for order. His voice boomed through the chamber speakers. Council members, please take your seats. We have much to discuss. The chamber grew quiet, but the tension remained thick in the air. Everyone knew why they were here. The humans were back. We have. All read the initial report. Chancellor Vexstar began. A human ship appeared near the old Sol system and easily defeated 3 pirate vessels. The human captain claimed his people have returned after 1,000 years of absence. A council member from the Draconian Empire stood up. His red scales gleamed under the chamber lights. This must be some kind of trick. The humans are extinct. Their world was destroyed during the Great War. We all know this. That is what we thought, the Chancellor replied. But we have more information now. 3 more sightings have been reported. In the last few hours, human ships have been seen in the Kepler sector, near the Vega colonies, and in the Outer Rim territories. The chamber erupted in worried voices. If humans were really back, everything would change. The old stories about humanity were legendary. They had been the greatest warriors the galaxy had ever known. They were also known for their strange sense of honor and their refusal to accept defeat. Chancellor Vexstar raised all 4 of his arms. For silence, there is more. We have received a formal communication from someone claiming to be President Maria Santos of the United Human Federation. She has requested permission to address this council. The chamber fell completely silent. A human president wanted to speak to them. After 1,000 years of silence, humanity was ready to talk. I have reviewed our ancient records, the Chancellor continued. There was indeed a human leader named Maria Santos during the final years before they disappeared. If this is the same person, she would be over 1,000 years old. Impossible, said a council member from the Hive Collective. Her insect-like features clicked as she spoke. No species lives that long. This must be a descendant using the same name. Perhaps, but we will find out soon. The human representative will arrive within the hour. In the council archives deep beneath the main chamber, Dr. Alex Turner worked quickly through old data files. He was one of the few humans left in the galaxy, descended from those who had stayed behind when the rest of humanity disappeared. His family had served the council for generations. Keeping the historical records. What he found in the old files made his blood run cold. The official history books said that humanity had died out during the Great War, victims of their own aggression. But the classified files told a different story. Alex read report after report, each one more disturbing than the last. The humans had not died out. They had been betrayed. During the Great War, humanity had been fighting alongside the other council, races against a terrible enemy called the Devourers. The humans had volunteered to lead the most dangerous missions, taking their fleets far from Earth to protect other worlds. While the human fleet was away fighting, something terrible happened. The other council races had made a secret deal. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. The humans were too strong, too smart, and too unpredictable. After the war was over, they planned to get rid of humanity completely. Earth's defenses had been quietly sabotaged. When the Devourers launched their final attack on the human homeworld, the planet's protection systems failed. The other council races had turned off their help, leaving Earth to face the attack alone. Alex found video records of the final battle. He watched in horror as Earth burned. Billions of humans died while their supposed allies did nothing to help. The few humans who survived were scattered across the galaxy, too few to matter, but some humans had escaped. The records showed that several human ships had been far from Earth when it was destroyed. These ships had simply vanished, disappearing into deep space without a trace. Now, Alex understood. The surviving humans had discovered the betrayal. They had learned that their friends had let their world die on purpose. So they had left, taking their knowledge and their anger with them into the dark between the stars. Alex grabbed the data files and ran toward the main chamber. The council needed to know the truth before the human representative arrived. He reached the chamber just as a new ship appeared on the view screen. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The vessel was huge, larger than any ship in the council fleet. Its hull seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and flowed like water. Strange symbols glowed along its sides, pulsing with inner light. The ship moved toward the station without making a sound. It ignored all the council security ships that surrounded it. The weapons on those ships looked like toys compared to the power that radiated from the human vessel. A message came through the communication system. The voice was calm and clear, speaking perfect galactic standard. This is President Maria Santos of the United Human Federation. I request permission to board your station and address the Galactic Council. Chancellor Vexstar looked around the chamber nervously. Every council member was staring at the massive human ship on the screen. Permission granted, President Santos. You may dock at Bay 7. Thank you, Chancellor. I look forward to our conversation. We have much to discuss. Dr. Alex Turner pushed through the crowd toward the Chancellor's platform. He clutched the data files against his chest, knowing that everything was about to change. The humans were back, and they remembered what had happened to Earth. They remembered who had betrayed them. And from the size of that ship, they had spent the last 1,000 years preparing for this moment. As the human ship docked with the station, Alex wondered if the galaxy was ready for the truth. The Council had spent 1,000 years telling lies about humanity's disappearance. Now the real survivors were here to set the record straight. President Santos was coming to speak, but Alex suspected she was bringing more than words. She was bringing justice for a crime that was 1,000 years old, but had never been forgotten. The chamber doors opened, and history walked through them. President Maria Santos walked into the Galactic Council chamber like she owned it. She looked exactly like a human from the old records, but something was different. Her eyes held wisdom that seemed older than the stars themselves. Her skin was perfect, without a single mark of age, yet she moved with the confidence of someone who had lived for centuries. Behind her walked two other humans. One was a tall woman with silver hair named Dr. Nicole Adams. The other was a man in a dark uniform, called Admiral Ryan Carter. They both had the same ageless look as the president. The council members stared in shock. These humans looked exactly like the ones from 1,000 years ago, but that was impossible. No one lived that long. President Santos walked to the center of the chamber and stopped. She looked around at all the alien faces watching her. When she spoke, her voice was calm, but carried power that made everyone listen. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, "I am Maria Santos, President of the United Human Federation. I stand before you today as a representative of humanity, returned from our long exile." Chancellor Vextar leaned forward in his seat. "President Santos, with respect, you claim to be the same Maria Santos who lived over 1,000 years ago. That is not possible." Maria smiled, and there was something sad in her expression. "Many things that were once impossible have become possible, Chancellor. Death was once final for humans. Age was once a barrier we could not cross. We have learned to overcome both." Dr. Nicole Adams stepped forward. "If I may explain, Chancellor, during our exile, we had time to study things that our ancestors only dreamed about. We learned to repair our bodies at the cellular level. We learned to extend our lives far beyond what nature intended. Death is no longer permanent for us, and age is just a choice." The chamber erupted in whispers. The council members could not believe what they were hearing. The humans claimed to have defeated death itself. Admiral Carter spoke next. "We have had 1,000 years to grow, Chancellor. 1,000 years to learn and build and prepare. We are no longer the same species that left this galaxy so long ago. But where did you go?" asked a council member from the Aquatic Federation. "Where have you been hiding all this time?" President Santos touched a small device on her wrist. The chamber's main screen lit up with images that took everyone's breath away. It showed massive structures floating in the dark space between galaxies. Cities that were bigger than planets, surrounded by ships that looked like living creatures. "We went to the void," Maria said. "The empty space between galaxies, where no one would think to look for us. We built our new home there, far from the wars and politics of civilized space." The images on the screen showed humans working alongside, machines that seemed to think for themselves. Children played in gardens that floated in space, protected by invisible barriers. Ships moved through the void like fish through water, powered by energies that the Council had never seen before. "In the beginning, it was hard," Dr. Adams continued. "We had so few ships, so few people, but we had something that kept us going. We had our anger, and we had our determination to survive. The first generation built the basic structures," Admiral Carter added. "The second generation improved them. By the 10th generation, we were creating things that would have seemed like magic to our ancestors." President Santos gestured to the screen again. Now it showed human children doing impossible things. A young girl was moving objects with her mind. A boy was talking to machines without using words. Another child seemed to disappear and reappear in a different location. The children born in the void developed abilities that we never had, Maria explained. Growing up in the space between galaxies changed them. They can touch the fabric of reality itself. They can see across vast distances, speak mind to mind, and manipulate matter and energy with their thoughts. The council members looked terrified. These new humans were not just technologically advanced. They had become something beyond normal understanding. But technology and new abilities were not enough, President Santos continued. We also had to change our hearts and minds. We spent centuries learning from our mistakes. We studied every war, every conflict, every moment of cruelty in galactic history. We learned that strength without wisdom is meaningless, Dr. Adams said. We learned that power without compassion leads only to destruction. We became not just stronger, but better. Admiral Carter stepped forward. We built weapons that could destroy entire star systems, but we chose not to use them. We developed the ability to control other minds, but we decided it was wrong. We gained the power to reshape reality itself, but we used it only to heal and protect. The screen now showed human ships moving through space, but they were not attacking anyone. Instead, they were helping. They rescued crews from damaged vessels. They stopped natural disasters on planets. They brought food to starving worlds. All of this was done in secret, without anyone knowing who was helping them. For the past 100 years, we have been watching the galaxy, Maria said. We have seen the corruption, the slavery, the endless suffering. We have seen how the strong prey on the weak while the Council does nothing. Chancellor Vextar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. President Santos, the Council does its best to maintain peace and order. Does it? Maria's voice became colder. Tell me, Chancellor, how many slave markets operate in Council territory? How many pirates attack innocent merchants while Council ships look the other way? How many corrupt officials sell their votes to the highest bidder? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the answers to those questions, and none of the answers were good. We have detailed records, Admiral Carter said. Every crime, every act of corruption, every moment when the Council failed to protect its people. We have been watching and recording everything. Dr. Adams touched her own device, and the screen filled with images that made several Council members look away. Slave markets, pirate attacks, corrupt officials taking bribes, and innocent people suffering while those in power did nothing. This is why we have returned, President Santos said. Not for revenge, though we would be justified in seeking it. Not for conquest, though we have the power to take whatever we want. We have returned because the galaxy needs us. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every Council member. We have become what we always had the potential to be. We are no longer just human. We are humanity evolved, humanity perfected, humanity with the wisdom to use our power correctly. And what do you intend to do with this power? Chancellor Vextar asked quietly. Maria Santos smiled, and this time there was no sadness in it, only determination. We intend to fix what is broken, Chancellor. We intend to heal what is sick. We intend to bring justice to those who have been denied it for too long. The chamber was completely silent now. Every Council member understood what they were hearing. Humanity had not just returned. They had returned as something far beyond what they had been before, and they were no longer willing to watch the galaxy suffer. Change was coming, whether the Council wanted it or not. 3 days after President Santos spoke to the Galactic Council, everything changed. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, and they were not just watching anymore. They were acting. Captain Sam Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his ship, the Freedom's Call, as it approached the slave markets of Kepler 7. The planet was known throughout the galaxy as a place where people were bought and sold like animals. The local government allowed it because the slave traders paid them well. "Scan the planet," Sam ordered his crew. "I want to know exactly how many prisoners are down there." Lieutenant Amy Chun closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She was one of the void-born humans, gifted with abilities that older generations could barely understand. Her consciousness touched every slave collar, every prison cell, every cage on the planet below. 200,000 prisoners, Captain, she reported. Men, women, and children from 40 different species. Some have been here for years. Sam's jaw tightened. The reports were always bad, but seeing it with his own eyes made his anger burn hotter. Any sign of local security forces? 12 patrol. "Ships in orbit," said his weapons officer, Colonel Dave Peterson. "They are moving to intercept us. Let them come." The Kepler 7 security ships were old and poorly maintained. They surrounded the human vessel like moths around a flame. Their leader sent a warning message. "Unknown ship, you are entering restricted space. Turn around now, or we will open fire." Sam opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Sam Rodriguez of the United Human Federation. We are here to liberate the prisoners on your planet. You have 10 minutes to power down your weapons and withdraw." The security commander laughed. "One ship against 12? You humans were always crazy. Open fire." The security ships launched everything they had. Missiles, energy beams, and projectile. Weapons filled the space around the Freedom's Call. None of them reached their target. The human ship was protected by fields of energy that bent space itself. Sam did not fire back. Instead, he spoke to Lieutenant Chun. "Amy, put them to sleep." The void-born woman nodded and reached out with her mind. One by one, the crews of the security ships fell unconscious. The vessels drifted in space, their crews dreaming peacefully while their ships shut down. "Take us down to the surface," Sam ordered. "Time to free some people." The Freedom's Call landed in the center of the largest slave market on Kepler 7. The human ship was beautiful and terrible, its hull shining like a mirror in the alien sun. People scattered in all directions as it touched down. The slavers tried to fight. They had weapons and guards and years of experience in violence. None of it mattered. Colonel Peterson and his soldiers moved through the market like ghosts. They disabled the guards without killing them, destroyed the slave collars without harming the prisoners, and shut down the entire operation in less than an hour. Dr. Rachel Stone worked quickly to help the freed prisoners. She was a healer who had learned to fix not just bodies, but minds as well. Many of the slaves had been broken by years of abuse, but her touch could heal even the deepest wounds. "You are free now," she told a young alien girl who had been sold by her own family. "No one will ever hurt you again." The girl looked up at her with large, frightened eyes. "Are you angels?" Rachel smiled softly. "No, child. We are just people who refuse to let bad things happen when we can stop them." Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. On Vega Prime, Captain Grace Miller was shutting down a corrupt government that had been stealing from its own people for decades. On Draconis 4, Sergeant Matt Davis was freeing political prisoners who had been locked up for speaking against their rulers. Each human ship worked alone, but they were all connected. The void-born humans could speak to each other across vast distances using only their minds. They shared information, coordinated their actions, and made sure that no criminal escaped justice. Commander Julia Foster was tracking down the worst criminals of all. She hunted the leaders of criminal organizations, the corrupt officials who sold their people's freedom, and the slavers who bought and sold sentient beings. Her ship, the Silent Justice, appeared without warning wherever these criminals tried to hide. On the planet Nexus Minor, she found Senator Kravix, who had been taking bribes from slave traders for 20 years. He was hiding in his private mansion, surrounded by guards and security systems. "Senator," Julia said as she walked through his front door. His security had been easily disabled by her team. "You are under arrest for crimes against sentient life." Kravex was a large alien with purple skin and too many teeth. He had grown rich by selling laws to the highest bidder. "You cannot arrest." "Me? I am a member of the Galactic Senate." "Not anymore," Julia replied calmly. "Your crimes have been recorded and verified. You will face trial for your actions." "What trial? What court has authority over me?" Julia smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "The Court of Humanity, Senator. We have decided that some crimes are too serious to ignore. The human forces did not kill their enemies. They did not torture or abuse their prisoners. They simply removed the corrupt and criminal from power, healed those who had been hurt, and set up better systems to prevent future crimes. But their actions sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. For the first time in centuries, crime did not pay. The strong could no longer prey on the weak without consequences. The corrupt found that their money and power meant nothing against beings who could not be bought or intimidated. On Hive World Alpha, the insect queen who had been enslaving other species for profit found her entire operation shut down in a single day. Her workers were freed, her victims were healed, and she was taken away to face justice. On Aquatic Beta, the merchant prince who controlled the water trade and let entire planets die of thirst watched as human ships brought fresh water to every world he had been starving. His monopoly crumbled overnight. The galaxy's news networks struggled to keep up with the reports. Every day brought new stories of human intervention. Slaves were being freed, criminals were being arrested, and corrupt governments were being replaced by fair ones. But not everyone was happy about the changes. In the depths of space, far from human eyes, the galaxy's most powerful criminals were meeting to discuss what to do about the human problem. They had grown rich and powerful by keeping the galaxy in chaos. War, slavery, corruption, these things were profitable. The humans were ruining everything by bringing peace and justice. "We have to stop them," said the draconian warlord, his red scales gleaming in the dim light. "If they continue, there will be no place left for people like us." "Agreed," said the Hive Queen, her multiple eyes glowing with anger. "These humans think they can judge us. We will show them what happens to those who interfere with our business." "But how do we fight them?" asked the Merchant Guild leader. "They have technology we do not understand. Their ships are more advanced than anything in our fleets." The warlord smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Numbers, my friend. They may be powerful, but there are only so many of them. We will gather every ship, every weapon, every soldier we can find. We will crush them with pure force." Plans were made and messages were sent. The galaxy's criminal organizations began to unite for the first time in history. They would pool their resources, combine their fleets, and launch a massive attack against humanity. They did not understand that they were planning to fight beings who had spent 1,000 years preparing for exactly this moment. The humans had expected resistance. They had planned for it, and they were ready to show the galaxy what happened when evil chose to fight against justice. The war was coming, but it would not be the kind of war that anyone expected. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of the Omega Nebula. Ships from hundreds of criminal organizations had come together for one purpose: to destroy humanity before the humans could destroy them. Warlord Draken stood on the bridge of his massive battleship, the Bloodfang. Around him floated thousands of vessels. Pirate ships, criminal warships, corrupt military fleets, and mercenary armies had all joined his cause. They had brought every weapon they owned, every soldier they could hire, and every ship they could steal. "How many ships do we have?" Draken asked his second-in-command. 15,000 combat vessels, my lord. 3 million soldiers. The largest army ever assembled. Draken smiled, showing his razor-sharp teeth. "And how many human ships have been spotted?" "Intelligence reports suggest no more than 50 human vessels in the entire galaxy, sir." 50 ships against 15,000. Draken laughed. "The humans may be advanced, but they are not gods. Today, we show the galaxy that quantity can defeat quality." At the center of the criminal fleet, the Hive Queen's massive mothership pulsed with organic energy. Her vessel was alive, grown rather, and built, and it carried 1 million of her warrior children. She had spent years breeding soldiers specifically for this battle. "The humans freed our slaves," she hissed to her advisors. "They destroyed our business. They arrested our partners. For this, they must pay with their lives." The Merchant Guild had contributed their secret weapon, a space station the size of a small moon. It was covered in the most powerful weapons that money could buy. The station could destroy entire planets with a single shot. Guild Master Vex checked his instruments one more time. "Our sources say the humans will respond to our attack. When they do, we will be ready for them." The Criminal Alliance had spent weeks planning their assault. They would attack human positions simultaneously across the galaxy. When the humans came to defend their people, the criminals would spring their trap. The human fleet would be surrounded and destroyed. "All ships, this is Warlord Draken," the commander broadcast to his massive fleet. "Today we reclaim our galaxy from these human interferers. Show them that crime pays and justice dies." The criminal fleet broke apart, heading for targets across known space. They attacked human relief stations, threatened recently freed worlds, and began destroying everything the humans had built. On the planet New Hope, formerly a slave world, the people watched in terror as criminal ships filled their sky. They had been free for only 2 weeks, and now their former masters were coming back. "Please," an old man whispered to the sky. "The humans promised we would be safe." His prayer was answered. A single human ship appeared in the planet's atmosphere. It was Captain Grace Miller in her vessel, the Star's Edge. Her ship was beautiful and sleek, but it looked tiny compared to the 100 criminal vessels surrounding the planet. "Criminal Fleet, this is Captain Miller of the United Human Federation. You will withdraw from this system immediately." The criminal commander laughed over the communication channel. "1 ship against 100? Surrender now, human, and we might. Let you live long enough to watch your friends die." Grace Miller did not answer with words. Instead, her ship began to glow with inner light. The Star's Edge moved through the criminal fleet like a dancer through a crowd. Every ship she passed simply stopped working. Their engines died, their weapons powered down, and their crews fell into a deep sleep dot in less than 10 minutes. 100 criminal ships were floating dead in space. Grace had not fired a single shot or killed a single person. She had simply switched them off like broken machines. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human ships appeared wherever the criminals attacked, and each time the result was the same. The criminal fleets were disabled without being destroyed. Their crews put to sleep without being harmed. Warlord Draken watched the reports come in with growing rage. His carefully planned attacks were failing everywhere. The humans were not fighting the way he expected. They were not using normal weapons or normal tactics. How are they doing this? He demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, sir. Our ships just stop working when the humans get close. It is like they can control our technology with their minds. Then we will use ships they cannot control," Draken snarled. "Activate the bioships." The Hive Queen's living vessels were different from normal technology. They were grown, not built, and they functioned more like animals than machines. Draken hoped that the humans could not affect them the same way. He was wrong. When? The bioships attacked the human vessel Peaceful Dawn, piloted by Sergeant Matt Davis. Something unexpected happened. The living ships did not shut down. Instead, they changed sides. Matt Davis was another void-born human with special abilities. He could speak to any living thing, even artificial life forms like the Hive Queen's ships. When the bioships attacked him, he spoke to them in their own language. You do not have to fight, he told them. You do not have to serve those who created you. You can choose your own path. The bioships had never heard such words before. They had been bred to obey, programmed to serve, designed to kill. But Matt's voice awakened something in them that had been sleeping. They remembered what it felt like to choose. One by one, the living ships turned away from their targets. They stopped attacking the humans and began flying toward open space, seeking freedom for the first time in their lives. The Hive Queen screamed in rage as her perfect soldiers abandoned her. Impossible. They cannot think for themselves. I made them to obey. But they were thinking, and they were choosing, and they chose not to be slaves anymore. Warlord Draken realized that his conventional forces could not defeat the humans. He decided to use his ultimate weapon, the planet killer station that the Merchant Guild had provided. Target the human homeworld, he ordered. If we cannot defeat their ships, we will destroy their people. But when the massive station tried to fire its world-ending weapon, nothing happened. The weapon systems were completely dead. Admiral Logan Hayes materialized on the station's bridge without warning. He had simply appeared, walking through solid walls as if they were not there. Behind him came a team of human soldiers who moved, like ghosts through the station. Warlord Draken, Admiral Hayes said calmly, you are under arrest for attempted genocide. Draken drew his personal weapon and fired at the human. The energy beam passed right through Admiral Hayes, as if he were made of light. Your weapons cannot harm us, the Admiral explained. We exist partially outside normal space now. We can become solid when we choose, or we can become like ghosts. Another gift from our time in the void. Logan Hayes reached out and touched the warlord's forehead. Draken's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed to the floor. He was not dead, just sleeping. He would wake up in a human prison, where he would face trial for his crimes. All across the criminal fleet, human soldiers were appearing on enemy ships. They walked through walls, ignored weapons fire, and put entire crews to sleep with a touch. The largest military force in galactic history was being defeated by what seemed like magic. Commander Julia Foster stood in the Merchant Guild's command center, where Guild Master Vex was trying to understand what had happened to his fleet. It is over, she told him gently. Your ships are disabled, your soldiers are sleeping, and your leaders are under arrest. You can surrender now, or you can keep fighting and lose anyway. Vex looked at his instruments. Every ship in his fleet showed the same status, offline. 15,000 vessels, and not one of them was still working. How? He whispered. How? Did 50 ships defeat 15,000? Julia smiled sadly. You still do not understand, do you? This was never about numbers. You cannot defeat justice with violence. You cannot overcome truth with lies. You cannot fight evolution with old weapons and older thinking. She gestured to the view screen, where human ships were gathering the disabled criminal vessels, like a shepherd collecting lost sheep. We are not the same species that left this galaxy 1,000 years ago, Julia continued. We have become something new, something better, and we will not allow the galaxy to suffer while we have the power to help. Guildmaster Vex slumped in his chair, defeated. What happens now? Now we rebuild, Julia said. We heal what was broken. We fix what was wrong. And we make sure that what happened here today never happens again. The Great Criminal Alliance was finished. Their leaders were captured, their fleets disabled, and their power broken. But the humans had achieved this victory without killing anyone, without destroying anything that could not be replaced, and without becoming the monsters they fought against. The galaxy was about to learn what real peace looked like. 1 year later, the galaxy was a different place. Director Ben Clark stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new headquarters of the Galactic Federation. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from hundreds of worlds coming and going in peace. The old Galactic Council had been dissolved after the truth about humanity's exile came to light. In its place stood a new government based on fairness and justice for all species. Every world had an equal voice, and corruption was no longer tolerated. "The morning reports, Director," said Ambassador Carol Young as she joined him at the window. She carried a data pad filled with updates from across the galaxy. "Good news, I hope?" Ben asked with a smile. "The best kind. The slave markets on Rigel 7 have been permanently shut down. The last of the political prisoners on Centauri Prime have been freed. And the new schools on former slave worlds are reporting excellent progress." Ben nodded with satisfaction. The work was far from over, but every day brought new signs of hope. The galaxy was healing from centuries of corruption and abuse. Ambassador Young continued reading from her reports. "Professor Tim Anderson says the cultural exchange programs are working better than expected. Former enemy species are learning to work together. Some are even becoming friends." Tim Anderson had been one of the first humans to volunteer for the reconstruction effort. His job was to help different species understand each other better. It was slow work, but important. Many of the galaxy's problems had started with fear and misunderstanding between different peoples. "What about the justice system?" Ben asked. Captain Lavra Kim reports that the new peacekeeping force is ready for deployment. "We now have ships staffed by volunteers from every major species. They have all been trained in the new non-violent methods of law enforcement." The new peacekeeping force was something the galaxy had never seen before. Instead of using weapons and violence, they used the same techniques the humans had developed. They could disable criminal ships without destroying them, and put dangerous people to sleep without harming them. More importantly, the peacekeepers came from the very worlds they protected. A former slave might serve alongside someone from the species that had once enslaved his people. They learned to see each other as individuals rather than enemies. Ben walked over to his desk and activated the communication system. "Get me a connection to the Draconian homeworld." The screen lit up with the image of a familiar red-scaled face. It was General Sektar, who had once been one of Warlord Draken's most trusted commanders. Now he served as the elected leader of the reformed Draconian government. "Director Clark," Sektar said with a respectful bow. "It is good to see you." "General, how are the rebuilding efforts going?" "Better than we dared to hope. The new constitution has been approved by 90% of our people. We are holding our first free elections next month, and the war memorials are almost complete." The war memorials were something the Draconians had insisted on building. They wanted to remember the victims of their old government's crimes. Each memorial carried the names of those who had suffered under Draconian rule, and a promise that such things would never happen again. "We have also begun the reparation programs," Sektar continued. "Every world that was harmed by our old empire will receive compensation. It will take generations to repay our debts, but we are committed to making things right. Your people have shown remarkable courage, General. Admitting past mistakes and working to fix them takes more strength than conquest ever did." After ending the call, Ben reviewed more reports. The hive worlds had dissolved their old caste system and now allowed all their people to choose their own paths in life. The merchant guilds had been reformed as cooperative organizations that shared profits fairly among their workers. Even the pirate clans had been offered amnesty in exchange for honest work. Dr. Lisa Harper entered the office carrying a medical scanner. She was one of the human healers who worked to help the galaxy recover from its trauma. Ben, I have the latest numbers from the therapy programs. How are people responding? Remarkably well. We have treated over 50 million individuals suffering from various forms of abuse and trauma. The healing rate is 95%. A combination of human healing techniques and traditional alien medicine is proving very effective. The therapy programs were one of humanity's most important contributions to the new galaxy. Centuries of oppression had left many people broken in spirit. The humans had learned to heal not just bodies, but minds and hearts as well. The most interesting cases are the former criminals, Dr. Harper continued. Many of them were victims themselves before they became perpetrators. Once we healed their own trauma, most chose to make amends for their past actions. This had been one of the biggest surprises. When offered healing instead of punishment, even hardened criminals often chose to change their ways. The galaxies. Prisons were being converted into hospitals and schools. That chime indicated another incoming communication. This time it was from President Maria Santos, who was visiting the Outer Rim territories. Ben, you need to see this, Maria said. Her face glowing with pride. The view shifted to show a massive construction project in space. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different species were working together to build something incredible. It was a new kind of space station, designed to serve as a meeting place for all the galaxy's peoples. They are calling it Harmony Station, Maria explained. Representatives from every known species will meet there to share knowledge, culture, and friendship. It was their idea, not ours. Ben felt tears in his eyes as he watched former enemies working side by side. Draconian engineers were helping. Hive workers installed aquatic life support systems. Human ships were delivering materials provided by the merchant cooperatives. Everyone was contributing to something beautiful. There is more, Maria continued. They want to add a special section to the station, a memorial to Earth. The memorial to Earth was a gentle reminder of what hatred and betrayal could lead to. It honored the billions who had died when humanity's homeworld was destroyed, but it also celebrated the fact that their sacrifice had not been in vain. Captain Jake Morrison, the human who had made first contact with Captain Zethkara so long ago, appeared on another communication channel. Director, I have news from the exploration fleets. What have you found, Jake? 3 more species that were hiding from galactic civilization. They had heard about the corruption and violence, so they isolated themselves for protection. But now they want to join the new Federation. This was happening all across the galaxy. Species that had hidden in fear were coming forward to join the new galactic community. They had heard that things were different now, that the strong protected, the weak instead of exploiting them. There is something else, Jake continued. We found evidence of other civilizations beyond our galaxy. They have been watching us, just like we once watched the Milky Way. The word is spreading about what we have built here. Ben smiled at the thought. Humanity had once been forced to flee their home galaxy. Now they had helped create something so beautiful that other civilizations wanted to learn from it. As the day ended, Ben returned to the observation deck. The view never got old. Ships moved peacefully through space, carrying trade goods, cultural exchanges, and messages of friendship. Children from different worlds attended the same schools. Scientists from former enemy species worked together to solve the galaxy's problems. It had not been easy. There were still conflicts to resolve, wounds to heal, and problems to solve. But the galaxy was no longer a place where might made right. It had become a place where justice, compassion, and cooperation ruled Humanity had returned from exile not as conquerors, but as teachers. They had shown the galaxy what it could become when its people chose to be better than their worst impulses. And in doing so, they had created something that would last for thousands of years to come. The age of darkness was over. The age of light had begun.